why it is that I run for office and kind of the background for this. But I tell it for a second reason. I am very worried that my story is a story that is embedded in time. I grew up in an America that was still investing in kids like me. An America that believed in expanding opportunity. And here's how I see that story. I see this story as not starting with me. It really starts with my grandparents during the Great Depression. You know, Great Depression, very tough times for America. A lot of people thought democracy was not going to survive. But America made two remarkable decisions coming out of the Great Depression. The first was to say we can stop the boom-bust financial part of these cycles where banks boom and then collapse and take lots of folks down with them by putting some basic financial rules of the road in place. We can do that. It was an amazing breakthrough. The second bit, and I talk a lot about that, I'm glad to talk about it again, but the second one in some ways is even more remarkable. A dark time for America, but we decided as a people during the Great Depression we would invest in ourselves, our children, and our future. And that is exactly what we did. For half a century, think of what America did. We made big investments in education. Everything from Project Head Start on through community colleges and public universities, a GI Bill, an NDEA loan program. We invested heavily in education for all of us. We invested heavily in infrastructure, roads, bridges, waterways, expanding mass transit. We built the national highway system, a national power grid, all because we believed we make those investments in infrastructure so that all the pieces are in place. When someone wants to start a business, they can do it. They can have an educated workforce. They can count on getting their people to market. It will work for us. And the third investment we made is in some ways an even more remarkable one. We invested in research. We invested in basic research as a country. We said, you know, this one's our comparative advantage. We are a people who approach problems lots of different ways. We come from lots of different backgrounds. If we put money in basic research, we will create a pipeline of ideas, the basic part, and then others. We'll turn it into this business, this new idea, that new cure. That was our idea. We made those three basic investments for half a century, and how did it work? Well, look at the numbers. Year over year, America's GDP, adjusted for inflation, keeps going up for half a century. And year over year, here's the key, median income for families went up at the same rate. In other words, as the country got richer, our families got richer. As our families got richer, the country got richer. And we changed something fundamental in our minds during this. We began to believe that what we do together is what creates real opportunity for the future, for our kids, for ourselves. You know, I don't kid myself about the 50s and the 60s. There were a lot of places where a lot of people weren't welcome. There were a lot of places women couldn't go, a lot of jobs we couldn't be in, a lot of schools we couldn't be in, African Americans couldn't go, Latinos couldn't go, gays weren't welcome, lesbians weren't welcome, Jews weren't welcome, right? Lots of folks on that list. But here was the key point. We became so committed to the notion of expanding opportunity, so committed to the basic belief that it isn't how you were born, what matters is what you do. Everybody gets a chance, and then you get measured by what you do with it. We became so committed to that that the arc moved in the direction of expanding those opportunities for all of us. Sometimes it was 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, but it moved in the right direction. That was the country we built together, because that's the kind of people we were. And then, about 30 years ago, we just started turning in a different direction. And we increasingly became a country that worried about those who'd already made it. We became a country increasingly that began to say, I got mine, the rest of you are on your own. So let me just roll that forward to you on where we are now, during the 2000s. And this is both before the crash and after. So, not because of the crash, this is the direction we've headed in. Infrastructure. Right now, China invests 9% of its GDP in infrastructure, building its future. Europe is investing 5% of its GDP in infrastructure, building its future. Here in America, we're at 2.4% and trying to figure out how to cut it. At 2.4%, we not only don't build a future, we don't even maintain a present. Research, that pipeline of ideas. Adjusted for, all right, let's do it as a proportion of GDP. That's the easy way to see it. As a proportion of GDP, we have cut our basic research budget from the federal government by more than half over the last 30 years. Is there anyone in this room who believes that by shrinking that pipeline of ideas, we stay more competitive in a global marketplace, or we create more opportunities for our people? And the third one, education. You know, there are a lot of places we could pick on education, but the one I just want to focus on is public universities. You know, that's it for a lot of people. That's your big chance. Public universities, how much more does a kid pay today, adjusted for inflation, than just on tuition and fees? You'll live at home or you'll live with Aunt Harriet or whatever it is. How much more for tuition and fees at a public university than 30 years ago? The answer is an increase of 350%. So that's it. For me, this is precisely why I am in this race. The question is, we are making investments. Everyone in this room is making investments every single day. Our tax dollars are hard at work subsidizing the oil industry. Our tax dollars are hard at work giving a special break to hedge fund managers. If you get paid in stock rather than paid in a paycheck, you're in a whole different tax scheme. Our tax dollars are hard at work with big multinational corporations, letting them escape taxes if they will simply make their investments overseas and keep their money overseas. So we're making investments right now. For me, what this race is about is that's not the right set of investments. The investments we need, I don't want to hurt those people. I really don't. I just want them to play on a level playing field with everyone else. I want to take those investments. I want to use it partly to pay down our debt, because I think that's important. But I want to use it partly to make investments in the future, in education, in infrastructure, in research. And the reason for that is so that the next generation of kids has a chance to make it big, and the kids after that, and the kids after that. For me, that's what this whole race is about. So I'm just going to wrap this up by saying about all of this, I appreciate your being here. This is what it takes to make a campaign work. But I want to say, I am in this race in part for my mom and dad. They're gone now. And they never put much together in their lives. But they knew down to their toes that they were raising 4 kids in an America of expanding opportunity. And if those kids worked hard, played by the rules, we had a real shot. And I am in this race in part because I now have 3 little grandchildren. And so for me, this one is personal. I am deeply committed to the proposition that they will grow up in an America that is also committed to expanding opportunity. That's it for me.